My Buderus has a code of H7. And I know that this means pressure, which comes up P7 up to P12. It seems to fluctuate. I have a pressure gauge on my system and it reads 16 pounds per square inch. The boiler keeps kicking out and I lose heat. How can I correct this? Conrad.
Welcome, Conrad. As we go along, just keep pressing the continue button until we succeed. Let's do some tests first. Test number 1. Watch the water pressure gauge that reads 16 psig. Tell me if it tends to fluctuate with the P7 to P12 readings or not. Test number 2. Open 3 hot water taps and tell me if any of those readings drop. They should not drop. Tell me if you have the manual on that unit or know how to re-pressurize the boiler or not. I also need the full model number of the Buderus boiler. Thanks. We can go from there. Phil 41241.96970432887.
Test number 1. The pressure on the 1 gauge does not move, just the readout on the boiler. I should tell you that I have this hooked up to a in-floor heating system. Test number 2. I am not using the boiler to heat potable water. I only have one side hooked up, and that's for the in-floor heating. I have this boiler in my shop. I do have a manual and I do know how to add more pressure. I have a pressure relief valve by my pressure tank and water will come watt at 20 pounds per square inch. I was told to not put more than 10 to 20 pounds per square inch on the lines. Therefore I have it at 16 pounds per square inch. The boiler is a Buderus GB 142-24.
Hello again, thanks for the data. It sounds like the electronic pressure transducer is going bad, or has a bad wire connection to the control card, or the circuit in the control card that receives the pressure transducer is going bad. It is most likely a bad pressure transducer. We need to check the stability of the resistance or voltage output reads across the sensor. I need to know which type you have. Tell me if there are 2 or are there 3 wires attached to the transducer. You will need a decent multimeter to do those tests. $30 at a hardware store for a reasonably good one. We can go from there. Phil.
I have to run down to my shop and look. I believe that there are 2 wires on the pressure sensor. My shop is about 50 yards away and I don't get internet down there. I also have a multimeter. I was wrong, there appears to be 3 wires going to the pressure sensor.
Thanks for the data. http://www.buderus.us/files/2010013075550.72150200_GB142 installation operation and .pdf. Click on that link please. See page 5455 for error code readouts under the pressure section. They show different codes than what you are seeing. You may have an older boiler. In order to get pressure readings, there must be pressure transducers in the system. They do not show any, and do not provide a wiring diagram so I can trace them. We will have to rely on the diagram you have glued to inside of one of the boiler service panels. Look at that and see which 2 of the 3 wires attached to the pressure transducer are marked for 0 to 10 VDC. Measure that for stability of reads with known stable boiler pressure. We can go from there. Phil.
Page 29 on that link shows what's in the cover. It shows the pressure sensor and 3 wires. It talks about a bus, and I don't know where that would be.
Hello again. I must be going blind, either that or I was looking for a useful diagram and just blew past it.
I live in Hudson, Wisconsin, about 30 miles from Minneapolis and St.
Just the wire connections from the sensor to the 81-pin gang connector. CLCK here for the service manual. See page 8 item 17 for pressure sensor location. They refer us to page 20, but no diagnostics on the pressure switch itself yet. I will post this before I lose the file. We can go from there. Fill.
Okay, in my manual it does show me how to replace the pressure sensor. But like you said, no diagnostics. I have located the pressure sensor on my boiler. The manual you have is a lot like mine, just the page numbers are different.
Hello again. If the pressure sensor is giving reads that variable with no actual change in boiler pressure or temperature at the time, the odds are in the 80% that replacing the pressure transducer will solve it. And in the 20% range it's a bad wire connection or the control card it plugs into. Try replugging that 81-pin gang connector it is shown connected to and let me know if that stabilizes the readout or not. We can go from there. Fill 41243.065113206.
After replugging that 81-pin gang connector, I turned the power back on. H7 was flashing and P7. So I pushed the reset and it light like it usually does, but this time the pressure started to climb. It climbed to P13, or 13 pounds per square inch. On that note, the pressure was still flashing, or the P13.
Hello again. We are getting close to figuring this out. It could easily be a bad pin in the 81-pin connector. Replugging it a few times with the power off can burnish those connections and cure the problem. Let's experiment with that for a while. We can go from there. Fill.
Well, that didn't solve the problem. But a new code came up, L6. And in my book it means ionization fails during the operating phase. I have a 500 gallons propane tank and I just walked in from outside and then the guy was filling it. So it's full. But even so, it was only down to 25% full before he filled it. The code went back to H7, and the pressure was all over the place from 3 pounds per square inch to 13 pounds per square inch, and it was hitting all numbers in between.
Hello again. That range of symptoms all point to bad connections in the 81-pin gang connector. We know that because as you replug it, you are getting these various changes. I do not want to confuse you with a long rant on what I think of such complex electronics, especially with such huge multiple pin gang connectors involved. It's unlike Buderus, who I think should know better. Most of their other boilers are 90% less complex. A winning strategy. These companies bring in electronics people with little experience in high-stress equipment that needs to run for years without trouble, and be easily diagnosable by a plumber, not a rocket science plumber. The general approach is nothing but trouble in most cases. They may have purchased gang connectors without sufficient pin, socket penetration. I worked on one a few years back with less than a 1/16 pin penetration by another manufacturer, so bad it was falling out the back of the control module it was plugged into. The failure is to design robust, easy to troubleshoot systems. Tell me what you can about the age of the boiler and the warranty. We can go from there, Phil.
The boiler is about 5 years old. And the warranty is another thing. I'm a mason and I traded labor with a fitter. The fitter turned out to be a hack. After I built him a big fireplace. So he bought the boiler through the company he worked with and installed it. I have had trouble with it. I found out that you need to be certified by Buderus to install them. Which he was not. So I hired a plumber that was certified, and after a lot of money being spent, he got it running. That was last year. This year he said that he does not like aluminum block housings on boilers and therefore thinks I should get another boiler. I was just going to see if I could fix it myself.
Hello again, thanks for the data. This boiler is something that a Buderus trained tech would have trouble with, or he would just start changing parts. If I were going to take that approach, I would start by changing the 81-pin gang connector and associated wiring harness. Of the Buderus trained techs, perhaps 2 out of 10 would be reasonably good at fixing this problem. Buderus is relatively new to the US. There is shortage of people trained on the more complex line of boilers. If you can get it fixed by one of those, the costs will generally be quite high, but not always, and fix may last months or a year before there is another problem. Buderus makes good equipment as a rule, some of the world's best. They have been around since 1730 and Germany. Controls this complex, however, are a mistake in my view. The world has not come to realize it fully yet. The new energy efficiency laws are demanding such complexity. The combination is a problem. The average lifespan of that type of boiler is 10 years, that particular model shorter because of the hundreds additional failure modes possible. If we cannot stumble on a simple cheap fix, getting a new one, and a much simpler one, would be a good idea. Personally, I avoid complexity like the plague, and that includes boilers a fifth as complex as yours. I buy the lowest efficiency, simplest, I can find, but from a good manufacturer, with a huge presence in the area. Burnham's simplest natural draft boilers are my favorite so far, but only the ones that advertise a 25-year warranty on the cast iron heat exchanger. Burnham has dealers all over the US. And some of the lowest pricing. There are 50 dealers in any major city. And at least 1 or 2 in most smaller towns. Let me know what you think, we can go from there. Phil.
I guess that this Buderus boiler is going to have to go. I'll look for a Burnham dealer in the area. I live in Hudson, Wisconsin, about 30 miles from Minneapolis and St. Paul, MN. I'm sure that there should be a dealer somewhere.
Hello again, here is a list. Call a few of the closest ones first. Tell them want the following: cast iron heat exchanger with 25-year warranty, Sparkington natural draft. Latest model. Team Mechanical 3508 Snelling Avenue, Minneapolis, Minnesota, NNN, middle.teammechanical.net category, boilers new and used, WHLS, radiant floor heating and high-efficiency boilers, licensed, insured, hot water and steam boiler specialists, heating, and air, commercial, Burnham, bonded, merchantcircle.com Peterson and Penny Plumbing 4151 Coon Rapids Boulevard Northwest, Coon Rapids, Minnesota, NNN, middle. petersonpenny.com 1 Review. Call us at NNN Boilers. Boiler sales and service available. Efficient and economical gas-fired hot water home heating from Burnham and /Fin. Dexnose.com Peak Heating and Cooling Incorporated. 7801 Park Drive, Chanhassen, Minnesota, NNN, middle. peakheatingandcooling.com Series 2 Gas Water Boiler, Burnham Indirect Water Heaters, Cast Iron Radiators, Cast Iron Baseboard. Triangle Tube Products. Triangle Tube Condensing Boilers, peakheatingandcooling.com Jepson Air Mechanical Services Eagan, Minnesota, NNN, middle. localheatingondair.com Category, Boiler Repair Service. We provide service on all brand names: Carrier, Burnham, Trademark, Bryant, Buderus, Wall, MC Line, Slantfin, Ream, Rude, Heil, Lennox, Honeywell, Unico, Sanyo, Goodman. Jepsonair.com Dale Huber Company 4831 West 124th Street, Savage, Minnesota, NNN, middle. Dalahuberco.com 1 Review. Professional installation. Bryant, Triangle Tube Boilers, Burnham Boilers. Heating, Cooling Equipment. Bryant Furnace, Triangle Tube Boilers, Burnham. Dalahuberco.com VE Systems Incorporated 12800 Industrial Park Boulevard, Minneapolis, Minnesota, NNN, middle. Systems.us Hydronic High Efficiency Water Tube Boilers, Division of Burnham. Trois Panels, www.troispanels.ca, Hydronic Ceiling and Wall Radiant Cooling and Heating Panels, Systems.us Thompson Plumbing and Heating 15001 Minnetonka Industrial Road, Minnetonka, Minnesota, NNN, middle. thompsonplumbing.net 2 Reviews. Thompson Plumbing and Heating is a plumbing, heating, cooling, furnace, boiler and air conditioning repair, service, replacement and maintenance company. thompsonplumbing.net Judkins Heating and Air Conditioning Incorporated. 15185 Carousel Way No. 106, Rosemount, Minnesota, NNN, middle. JudkinSheetonDare.com Boiler brands including Carrier, Bryant, Payne, Train, Lennox, Ream, Rude, Amana, Frigidaire, Gibson, Goodman, Maytag, Burnham, Wall, McLean, Thermalec. JudkinSchwarz.com National Mechanical Solutions LLC. Eagan, Minnesota, NNN, middle. Localheatingondair.com Category, Boiler Repair Service. We provide service on all brand names: Carrier, Burnham, Trademark, Bryant, Buderus, Wall, MC Line, Slantfin, Ream, Rude, Heil, Lennox, Honeywell, Unico, Sanyo, Goodman. Jepsonair.com Apple Valley Furnace and Air Conditioner Repair, Rosemount, Minnesota, NNN, middle. Localheatingondair.com We provide service on all brand names: Carrier, Burnham, Trademark, Bryant, Buderus, Wall, MC Line, Slantfin, Ream, Rude, Heil, Lennox, Honeywell, Unico, Sanyo, Goodman. That's the only way the company pays me for my time. Thanks. That will also allow you to follow up for advice on the new boiler selection details, etc. On the same dime with no time limit, Phil 41243.91171086881.
If you have a home improvement or appliance question and want to chat with an expert now, visit JustAnswer.com/YTHI.